Welcome back, everybody, to Soul and Self Collective. Um, this is Elizabeth,
Yeah.
and I'm Scott. And
There was a question that I wanted to answer off from the footwork.
Yeah.
Is that someone had asked me in particular, because in the last video I spoke about how angels felt to me, uh, and I didn't talk about how people of different faith and what they felt like to me. And so, just to kind of quickly answer that question, so when I work with people who are Wiccans, this particular person, and again, everyone's different, but this particular person, I felt like whenever I was working with her, I felt like she belonged with like a group.
like a coven.
Yes, like a coven, because I saw like cloaks. I'm not trying to be like super stereotypical, but I felt like she should be with like people with lots of cloaks and like walking barefoot in the forest and not singing kumbaya, but then like just almost like a sisterhood, almost like a family, a coven. And so with that, and also it felt very like nature-y, like
That's fun.
yeah.
Sounds similar to what I might be as well, or what my guides are
Mhm.
similar to.
Yeah, but with her in particular, that person, her sadness and whatnot,
Yeah.
it was a yearning for belonging, of like she's missing her coven.
Yeah.
And we did kind of talk about her going to look for a coven, but she shared that she likes to practice her magic alone, and so, which is completely fine. But I'm sensing that she's meant to belong to a bigger group instead of just solo practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So curious. What else have you felt? Like you said, you felt an angel. When you were working with a Wiccan, you said you felt like the coven part
Mm-hmm.
of it. What else have you felt during your journey so far?
Um, what do you mean? That's so broad and
Like,
generalized. Like, what do you
what
mean?
does a demon feel like? How can you tell something's a demon and not a demon?
It depends, because if it's like a demon, to me, demons has always been really cunning. Okay. They I'm putting this so lightly, like I'm Disney-fying it, but they feel like Stitch. You know how Stitch goes to Hawaii and he made this elaborate like San Francisco, and he's just like trying to create havoc just because it's in his DNA. To me, that's what demons feel like. They're
Okay.
just not that they're toying, but they're essentially doing things like toying with people and just being really sinister about it. That to me is demonic.
Okay. And you've gotten to a point where you can sense and have that feeling of what they feel like? Or
Yeah.
is it more
And
of,
also they now demons, well, any entities really can try to hide themselves, but if they're not trying to hide themselves, to me, when demons approach me, they
yeah.
feel really hot.
Okay.
Like physically, if it feels like a strong heat in my back, and it's definitely not my guides. And they will also have like a big influence on a sudden shift of mood.
Okay.
That's another big key takeaway, is that big fluctuation of mood. Like you were totally fine, and all of a sudden something just sets you off. Like,
Okay. Like anger or sadness or something like that.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And that made me that just you
But it's
talk.
kind of tricky because things have to line up, because there's other variables that could be the reason why a
Like what?
person could fluctuate in their mood.
Oh,
Like
okay.
maybe they have bipolar. They're clinically bipolar, or they haven't Oning in a while, and their Oning wants them to go, Oning, and they're throwing a tantrum. There's a lot of variables in like why your mood would fluctuate. But I'm just saying that's one part of the ingredients that needs to add up for someone to go, I think there's a demon here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talking about that, you brought up your guides. What do they feel like, and how do you know it's them and not a demon trying to portray them, or those types of feelings?
Yeah. My guides, they wouldn't try to hurt me. And I can stop it. That's the big key takeaway.
Okay.
Because my guides, they can pester me, they can influence my mood. But if I don't want to, like, okay, so the whole part of being on this journey is to also really know yourself so that you can really compose yourself to let your guides guide you, but also to like tell your guides to kind of steer them in a way that doesn't match up what you might want to do, right?
Okay.
And so if I'm able to, if I'm noticing a shift of like an emotion or a shift of thinking, but that's not me, I can stop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way, because I know that in the
But with a demon, you can't,
you can't. Why is that?
because they're not going to just leave because you told them to stop.
Yeah.
You can make, like, if you have that strong mentality and you tell them to stop, you can like kind of prolong them lingering. But if they are really invested in wanting to attach to you,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's going to take a lot more than just stop or I don't want this.
Okay.
So
Fascinating. That's good. I feel like there's so much more I want to ask, but for some reason I can't think of how to ask them. But like,
and again, this is just my take. There's so many like practitioners out there who has a lot of experience. This is just my experience thus far.
yeah, and I think that's what's interesting is trying to see. Like, I've always wanted to ask you these questions early, and then revisit them in like a year and see what the difference is. And what else have you like experienced so far? And like we've done demons, you've done angels, you've done Wiccan. Like, what else have you experienced?
Well, remember when I told you I met like the guardians of like areas,
Yeah.
like the Point Reyes guardian.
Yeah.
Um, I've met like spirits and they feel really clean. That's like the closest word I can think of. A lot of these entities actually, they're all really clean. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking of food. I'm not hungry, I swear. But to me, humans and their essence and their spirit, it feels very much like fast food.
Okay.
There's a lot of additives and there's a lot of grease and a lot of whatever ingredients. Okay. But then spirits that are not human or from this plane of existence.
Yeah.
Let me take that back. That are not humans. I'll just leave it at that. That are not humans. They're very clean, like clean.
You get the spiritual correction right there.
Yes, I feel like clean eating, like a like keto food. Yeah, or things that are just, there's not like filler in these spirits. They are what they are. Okay. And this is so weird talking about like spirits and humans, but spirits, they're more predictable to me. They're more predictable than a human spirit.
Why is that?
Because humans, I feel like we tend to easily flip or flop and are easily influenced. We're easily swayable, and
it's very true.
We have a quick change of heart. And I feel like with spirits, again, they are what they are, and they don't tend to stray from that very much compared to humans.
That's true.
They're easily swayable.
Yeah, I can. When you say that, it makes me think of like need to survive. or different reasons why people would change what they believe. And that's fascinating. So spirits are essentially loyal to a fault.
Yeah, essentially. Well, like it just kind of makes me think back to something Tassie says is that the heavens made spirit guides to be a certain way,
Yeah.
to be good, right? And they're not going to stray from that. Like spirits, they are what they are. Whether that's demons, whether that's a guardian, spirit guide, um, they're not going to stray from what they were made for. Unlike humans, well, that's a very interesting variable. They can stray from whatever they want because there's that free will. And to me, I feel like this plane of existence is such a melting pot of all faith, of all walk in faith. And so,
Okay. Let's take a pause because I have a question I want to ask you, and you can edit it out if you don't answer it.
okay.
What makes spirit guides want to possess people?
Okay.
Because you said they're innately good.
Yeah.
But I have also heard of times where spirit guides possess.
We can leave this question in.
Okay.
I do not have professional experience in this, okay? I just want to put that out there.
I will say neither one of us have experienced it, but we've heard stories about
Yeah.
it.
But just from my take with my current knowledge as a therapist and my level 1 experience as a shaman is that spirit guides may possess their shaman is because the shaman, no shade to them, but they are trying to find like a prettier word or how to say this, but I can't. So they're not as strong. Like they sway really easily. They don't know who they are very well to the point where they're just easily influenced and taken over by their feelings and their emotions and by their spirit guides. They don't know how to remember how earlier I was talking about you should be able to steer your guides in a way that if you don't want to go that way, even though it's the better scenario for you, if your heart says no, you should be able to steer your guides to the path that you want. You know, kind of like a compromise.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time where I feel like possession comes in is where like the person in their spirit guide is that the person doesn't know themselves very well and they just allow their spirit guides to do whatever.
Yeah.
And they can't they don't feel confident to just go the way that they want to. And it gets to a point where like they can't do anything anymore because they're just so powerless. Their voice is so drowned out by their spirit guides that they're just kind of like letting I used this metaphor with you before. It's to me, I view like my body is like a bus, right? And I'm the driver, the main spirit that houses this body. And then my spirit guides, they are sitting in the seats of the bus. And my main spirit guide that came with me, they're riding shotgun. They're right next to me.
Yeah.
And they have direct access to me. And then once in a while, like spirit guides or other attachments from the back, they'll like to come up and try to talk to me, you know, while I'm driving the bus. And then sometimes like my main spirit guide that's riding shotgun, they'll tell them like, hey, you know, go stand in the back, she's driving right now, we're concentrating, we don't got time for this, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to say with this analogy is that sometimes that particular scenario where the person is being possessed by their spirit guide, they're just saying, Jesus, take the wheel, and the spirit guide is just driving while they're just watching.
They're in the back seat.
Yeah.
They're like, wow.
The really far gone ones, yes. They probably just sit in the back seat and there's all these spirit guides going up front steering wheel trying to drive the bus because the captain's gone.
So it kind of sounds like the shaman in those situations don't know how to differentiate what they're feeling to what the guides are wanting.
Mm-hmm. And they don't know how to communicate with their guides and tell them in a way where they don't, one, upset their guides,
Yeah.
and doesn't create where they get overtaken by their spirit guides and end up in a possession, or they become really schizophrenic.
I was gonna say, or they could just think that those are their thoughts and they are doing the right thing when they're being controlled by something else.
Yeah. But from what I've heard, most people, they don't want to do certain things.
Yeah.
And they're just putting up a facade to kind of like recover from doing something they don't want to do, but then they don't want to, like lose face.
Yeah.
Lose face. Ugh, I can't say that word for some reason. Lose face to the people around them, like the family, friends,
Yeah.
job, like coworkers, that they're still able-bodied to work. But with that, a shaman, I'm speaking a shaman or a spiritual person, you have to know yourself very well. And you have to be able to have good, strong communication with your guides, because if you don't, you can become schizophrenic, and you just won't be able to control it, and you'll just become possessed.
Okay.
And I've never seen that. I've never experienced that myself. I have a really good relationship with my guides.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I know, some are developing, rebuilding that relationship with their guides, and some have a really good relationship with their guides too. So
yeah, that's a true statement.
Yeah.
The development has been impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of that, we recently went to one of the last cohort of the orphans in California, of Tassie's little group. And
The four of you.
so, yeah, the four of us. It was such a bittersweet event, because it was the last raising of raising a shrine.
I know. And they were so back to back that it started to just become like you just got used to it. Like every 2-3 weeks, you
Yeah,
were
I
just gonna
know.
go have a celebration of someone raising, and you were just gonna hang out for 2 days and talk and have a good time and eat good food. And
Yeah.
now there's essentially only one left, which is your second raising.
Yes, I am. I'm going on to my second level in October.
Yep.
And then
But then after that, I don't know when, outside of us just hanging out with them, but who knows when Tassie's going to be back out here.
Yeah.
Or,
that was the sad part, was I don't know how you guys have your relationship with your Sifu, but I have a deep love for my Sifu. She is such a huge mentor. She's an idol for me, for being such a strong shaman and so caring of her clients and her students as well. And she's such a funny and amazing person. She brings such great humor to what would be a very frightening field for a lot of people.
yeah.
And it's good to have someone like her to really help guide and to also protect and look out for me and all of her other students. I've been very, very fortunate to have met my teacher, who can hopefully bring me to my final level. I didn't have that struggle, and I've heard of
so many stories. I've heard so many stories of people led the wrong way, or relationships being strained halfway through, or
yeah, and them just not finding the right teacher, and it just
people imprisoning guides. Craziness.
Yeah, and it's just stunting their journey, their growth.
Yeah.
And so I've been very blessed to not have to experience that. I definitely prolonged how my shaman journey, but like I needed to. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, you missed a couple of hints and suggestions on when they were trying to get you to start, but like you said, you're where you need to be right now.
Yes. Um,
They only tried to kill you once.
yeah, I was just thinking about. Remember that time when I like rewind. So your guides, they shouldn't hurt you. Well, my guides, they weren't trying to hurt me. They actually did try to warn me to wake up before I had a fatal car accident.
They put you to sleep and then woke you up.
Yeah. I think I spoke about this in other videos, but I said that before I started my journey as a kid, all the way to like even now, when I when I go in a vehicle, I go into kind of like a trance. So when you name, you go into your trance, so you're like at that fine line of almost falling asleep. That is what car rides are like for me, and so that's also very dangerous. No, I do not have what is that? Necropsy. I don't know if I'm reading it right or saying it right, but essentially those people that tend to fall asleep.
Narcolepsy?
Yes, narcolepsy. I don't have that. Those are the people that just fall asleep standing on the drop of a dime.
Yeah.
They just medically cannot help themselves.
Yeah.
I don't have that. But in car rides, like I go into a trance, going to the spirit world, but I thought it was just bored and falling asleep.
Right? And that should have been a cue, but
well, I mean,
yeah.
That's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. You know what? I'm excited to. I know this past weekend we were talking, and one of the other students recommended that we hang out more. Mm-hmm. And then he said he was going to teach me how to barbecue because I don't know how to barbecue. I throw meat on and hope that it doesn't burn.
You don't want Scott to
You don't
barbecue.
Want me barbecuing. You should probably just keep me away.
And I say that with love. Like,
no, it's pretty bad. So I need to learn how to barbecue. So we need to make that happen so you can teach me how to barbecue.
Yes. Well, definitely hang out with my peers. Like I don't even know what to call them. Like I feel like peers is such a understatement of my relationship with my peers. Like I don't know how else to describe them.
We become very close with them.
Yeah, I consider them like my siblings, like genuine siblings. We always look out for one another, and we always, I feel like peers is such a understatement for how I feel about them.
For sure.
And so, yeah, it was really bittersweet seeing the last peer raise his shrine, but it was such a beautiful event. His wife and him, they worked really hard, and his family, and the food, everything was so amazing. And
all the food for all the ceremonies was pretty on point. It kind of makes me sad that we went first. We set the bar really low.
Yeah, we did.
Everyone was making home cooked meals and stuff. We were over there with Jollibee.
Yeah, but that's okay. You know what? That was my first level, and whatever.
Yeah, we were trying to make it easy on everybody. We didn't want to be sitting there cooking the entire time. So we were like, let's order everything.
But to be fair, we went in not knowing if we were going to have that support.
That's very true.
Because all of my peers, they've had a lot of support from their family to help prepare the meals and whatnot, cook and clean. And
when we started, we thought it was just going to be us, just me and you, and
cut us some slack. Like we're trying to do with what we can with the resource that we have. Yeah. So,
but now they raised the bar. So the second one or the next one,
they had their nice event, and I spoke with my parents, and we're doing a little bit more planning for my second raising. We have
more support now.
Yeah,
which is nice.
And so it was going back to the last peer's raising. So his style is, for his style of Ning, he requires the Lunduan to be hit. What is that?
It's the gong.
How do you say it?
I don't remember. Lud. Huh? Ludong?
No.
Lud.
Lundua.
Lundua.
Yeah, Lundua. So he requires a gong to be hit constantly, right? And so his wife hit, was the one who did that.
Yeah.
And then the second time when Tassie had asked the peer to go again, she was still eating. And so Scott is so sweet. He was like, you can keep eating. I'll hit the gong for you. And she's like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. And then you went. And what was that like for you?
It was an interesting experience because on one side, I felt like I was cheating on you because in like the shaman way, because I was being a husha for somebody else while you were watching. But it was also a lot of respect that I would even
cheating on me.
Yeah. I was sitting there, I was like, man, am I allowed to do this?
Yes.
But I also was like, I felt a lot of respect that someone would even ask me to do that for them, and to have that trust of another shaman to trust that I would know and do what I was supposed to be doing. So that was nice. I got to prep the shrine and get everything set up for him. So that was really cool. I did like that feeling. It felt very, I was very honored. It felt nice.
How was your forearm?
Oh, yeah, completely different from Liz. So Liz, you just hit it 3 times and I put the gong down and go sit down.
No, yeah.
He was not like that. His was, and it was like when I'm doing Liz's, it's like slow and rhythmic and dainty and cute, and I'm just trying to make it sound cool. His is just like I had to go so fast, and his gong was heavy. And they asked me,
fast? It didn't look like you were going fast.
It felt fast. If it's like 3 times faster than what I do with you.
I think maybe because you're just so hyper vigilant of people watching you, it felt fast to you.
I don't know. I felt like I was going slow, and then you were like faster, and I'm like, oh my god, how fast do we need to go?
Yeah, you needed to go a little faster because you're going too slow.
Yeah, because I usually go slow for yours, so that's what I was trying. And I regret not taking the chair. If anyone ever offers you a chair because you're gonna have to sit there and hold it the entire time, take the chair. Because I wasn't able to rest my arm on anything. I was just holding it, and I'm just like, man, you better not be going for 45 minutes.
The gong, it's not those little black one, the tiny ones that I guess is light. It's those like the the golden gong,
full on one. I'm just sitting there holding it. I'm like, man, both arms are just gonna work. I'm just like, for a solid like. I don't even know how long we were gone.
I was joking with Scott that next time we hang out with my siblings, my shaman siblings, that Pierre's wife is going to be like, all right, who wants to arm wrestle?
Yeah,
she's like super buff.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience because the entire time I was sitting there and I was like, this is so different from mine. Like if you're doing this, if you're hitting the gong the whole time, how are you going to change out the instant sticks? If you need to use the Zenang, how are you going to do that? There was just a whole bunch of things where I was like, do you need, is that shaman going to need 2 hushas the entire time? One just dedicated to hitting the gong? But I was told that he has the choice eventually to choose how long he wants to do it for. And it's kind of up to his guides as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out with time. But yeah, that was an interesting experience, I will say.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience because usually like after the ceremony, we just kind of hang out, right? And we just talk. And I was told that I actually have a set of guides that are the medicinal type.
That's right. We get to make another shrine.
So Tassie was like, do you feel like you have other types of guides? And I kind of like knew what she was hinting at. And so I was like, I don't know why. She was like, medicine type. Do you feel like you got medicinal type guides? And I was like, because I've always been super geeked out by like herbs and natural holistic type of stuff. And I always thought that it was just like an influence from my grandma because I seen them gardening and I just thought that maybe like the herb scent just reminds me of them. But then like there's deep down, I want to be that person to garden. Like I want to tell my grandma like I want to do it, right? But yeah, I love collecting um, herbs, especially like flowers. I love drying flowers and making like little poopery. Well, they're called poopery, but then like I bought this little antique poopery case thing. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? But then I've just been kind of collecting like flower petals from bouquets because I love making bouquets and arrangements, and I will just take leftover petals and dry them, and I'll just make a concoction, you know. And I've always thought, envisioned like this would be great for like um, harnessing like love and purification, and you know, I don't know how to like describe it. Like in the moment, it feels just so natural and so right. And so when Tassie had asked me that, I already knew deep down like I had those type of guides, but I just thought it was just like a weird quirk of mine. And that's just kind of is like the theme for a person awakening and finding out that they're a shaman and whatnot is all of your weird quirks suddenly make sense.
It's very true.
And
Very
so while you know mystery is solved, it was also another headache because where my shrine is, it's a pretty small room already, and so I have to rearrange it, get rid of like bookcases. Like you guys, if you guys watch my shorts, you guys kind of seen my shrine room. So those two white bookcases, I would have to completely remove those, and so I can make room for the second level shrine, which is going to be so much bigger than my little tiny one I have right now.
Yeah.
And then I have to make an additional shelf for this shrine to Hukuda that has medicinal skills. And so, and then
Pretty much your guy said we need to downsize this room. This room needs to be empty other than us.
yeah, because they went to go tattletale on me to Tassie saying, it's so tight in there. Tight in there as in like my shrine office space. Y'all, I have too much hobbies because I don't want to get rid of my bookcase because they hold like my watercolor stuff, my arts and crafts, my yarn.
Nope, they're all moving.
My scrapbooking. So,
which, going back to what you were talking about, it was fascinating because the day before we found out that you had those guides, you went to an estate sale. And the few things she found in there.
You guys, I went to an estate sale.
Okay. Miniature.
Wait. I'm not sure if I ever told you guys, but I love going to estate sales. I know, weird. But I love going to those. And so
our house was built off estate sale.
And so I haven't gone in a really long time.
Yeah.
Because we've just been so damn busy. And that's something I'm gonna talk about later too. But we've just been so damn busy. And everything is just lined up for us to go to this estate sale. The fruit farm that we were gonna go to, they weren't open yet, and there was just miraculously this random estate sale.
Yeah, let's put this in the picture because it was so random. So we found out about this farm from one of the ceremonies we went to. One of the people who owns it was there, and he was talking about
delicious fruits, by the way.
Yeah, it's called CN Farms.
Yeah, CN.
Yeah, farm. And they actually have really good fruits. I will say
actually really no,
that's
it's
delicious
the
fruits.
best fruit I've ever had, and we're not sponsored by them. We're not trying to toot anyone's horn.
No,
These are
they're out there.
genuinely delicious fruits. Like the owner, he is a super, and I say this with like a lot of love. He's super nerdy about growing fruits. Like he has it down to a science.
Yep.
When you talk to him, he sounds like a mad scientist.
Yep. He loves.
You can
He loves
see the
making He
passion
loves making fruit.
he has for his fruits. Those are his
Yeah.
babies, like his pride and joy. And his fruits, they actually walk the talk that he talks about his fruits and his.
They genuinely do. I was impressed the first time I had them because the whole reason we went out there is because they didn't bring any. They weren't in season yet to bring to the ceremony.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how great these fruit were, and we are like, all right, let's try them. And then we went out there to get them so we could give it to Tassie's Husha because she was talking.
GJ.
Yeah, GJ, because she was talking about how much she wanted to try the fruits.
Yeah.
So we drove out there. It's like an hour away from our house. Literally like 25 minutes off of the freeway.
They're out in Marysville in California.
Yeah. But you drive like 25 minutes into farmland out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. There's nothing but farmland for like 15, 20 minutes. And just so happened, right down the road from where the farm was, like you said, we showed up about 15 minutes early before they opened. There just was some random estate sale.
Yeah, I immediately saw it, random farm. And I was like, I want to go to that. And he looked at me like, no, we don't have time. I'm like, yeah. Well, I asked it, but then I knew that it was not possible. I just wanted to say it.
But they were closed. And I was like, you got like 20 minutes. I can go drop you off there.
Very dangerous.
So you can go look, and I'll go get the fruit.
Unsupervised.
That's right. It was.
Oh my God, I had so much fun, like looking at the stuff. Oh my God, the house smelled bad. Like there was ghosts there. They smell like, I don't know, ghosts kind of smell like.
Yeah, what do they smell like?
They smell like old people. Like old people times 4. Really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah. Very musty, and it's not like a smell that's consistent. It's certain spots that has really strong scent.
Probably like certain rooms and stuff. That was the one thing.
Not certain spots. In this particular place. So Scott dropped me off, and I'm going through stuff. I love one of my things. Actually, a lot of people who goes estate selling or they like thrifting, everyone has like a little niche that they like to collect, and so mine is picture frame. Good Lord, I'm a hoarder of picture frames. I love me a good picture frame.
We have so many friends that don't even have pictures.
Hey,
just
hey,
in case you get a picture.
I plan to, because I love to draw, and so I like to put my drawings in there.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm collecting these beautiful frames, right? They're metal, they're like iron, old flowery floral frames, and like brass. You can't find those type of frames nowadays, and so they're just absolutely gorgeous. And I go into like the little barnyard, like workshop area, and I'm going through, and I'm just drawn to like this random basket in the center of the barn, and it just has a bunch of like tools. And so I go over there for some reason. I don't do any type of woodwork or mechanical things.
We don't have a yard, so we're not gardening.
Yeah. But I was just drawn over there, and I'm like picking up tools, and I'm just looking. I'm like, oh, okay, junk. Well, I don't know why I'm searching through this. And I see Scott. He finished grabbing the fruits, and he's in the parking lot. He already parked the car. And so I'm like, oh, I need to hurry up. But my hand just keeps like searching. Okay. And so that's I'm like, well, what the heck am I doing? So cute. That's like my spirit guides, okay? Because there's no reason why I would. Anyways. And so I'm searching through, and I'm like grabbing this cute little scythe. It's like a little mini scythe. and I grabbed that, and I grabbed like a
Insert
flathead.
picture here.
Yeah, and a flathead. It looks like a flathead screwdriver, but I don't know how to describe it to you guys. Like when you hold these items, I sound like I have issues, but the craftsmanship, the handle, it feels so nice. It's not like those plastic handles or those rubber handles that you find at a big box like store. These were like built to last. Like they feel really good, and they've been loved and they've been used. And yeah, I grabbed it, and it just felt like I wanted to give it a second life, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do with these, but
okay.
okay.
The next day we find out.
Yeah, and then literally the next day, I was like, so do you feel like you have any other coven guides? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, now I have to make room.
You do. We have to figure out how to put a little garden somewhere. Figure out how to put a little garden on our.
I've been watching my. That's another thing. I've been watching my patio like a hawk, just trying to gauge when it gets direct sun and when it gets just shade. It's just God, you have to go through it to understand what I'm talking about. Like your weird quirks, everything just makes sense when you become more awakened and you understand your guides, and it'll just make more sense. I sound like a crazy. I feel like I'm those people on the corner of San Francisco that says the world is ending.
So how do you get past that imposter syndrome?
Huh?
Of having like those thoughts and worried about feeling like the crazy person and all of those. How do you get past that?
You just gotta really know yourself. You don't. To me, in this part, it's easier said than done. You shouldn't need the validation of external forces to know you're not crazy, to know yourself that you're sane. I say that. There's a thin line, though. Okay, you guys, there's a thin line, because some people, they really do need medical help, and they are actually not clinically sane. But for the most part, okay, normal is super relative, okay? As long as you're not a nuisance or an issue to the public and hurting the people around you and yourself.
And you have control.
You're perfectly normal and you're sane. And again, normal is such a relative term, but you're considered sane.
You're legally considered
sane. Yeah.
But once you lose control and things start happening to you without you being able to stop it or understand why you're doing it, that's when the diagnosis of schizophrenia starts to pop up, because then you don't have control anymore.
Yeah.
Speaking from clinical terms.
Yeah. But speaking about that imposter syndrome, you just really gotta know yourself and not needing the validation of other people to tell you that, oh, you're perfectly normal, you're an amazing person. You have to have like that confidence in yourself and know who you are and your worth and what you bring to the world and what you want to do with your lifetime and all that great stuff.
Just being able to do it. I'll say this past weekend, we talked about earlier when I was a husha for someone else, the imposter syndrome was starting to pick up, because I was like, what makes me qualified to be here? Why am I here instead of somebody else? But I just flicked that thought away, and I was like, I know what I'm doing. I know I can do this, and just do the best I can.
Honestly, that's all you really can do.
Yeah, and it went well.
It's those
besides when he stopped and I didn't know he stopped, because it was so random. Everyone was just like, you're done.
He was so
He's dead.
into the hitting the gong that I was so worried that he was going to trance himself. I'm like, this, he better not like go into his own trance and just start meditating.
I'm so used to Liz. When she's done, she sits down and she like slows down, and then I'm like, oh, okay, she's ending.
Guys, so slack. It's his first time. It was that Pierre's first time going into the spirit world. I don't know when was the last time he went in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it was funny because everyone was like, you don't have to keep going. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I literally had to go like Forrest Gump style. Stop! Scott, stop! Oh my gosh.
We did it. I was locked in because it hurt. My arm was dying, and I was like, you can't stop now. Should have took the chair. But it's okay. It's all right.
And then you want to know something interesting? You know what? I think I'll save this for another video. But eventually I want to talk about how you plan for something to go a certain way, like you make peace with it, and you're going towards that making peace, and then the universe is trying to tell you go this way, and you're like, but I want to go this way, but you don't want to go that way.
It genuinely just shows you how no matter how much planning you do, you really don't have any control.
No, you don't.
But you're just along for the ride.
But you have that free will. Everything will work out how it's meant to.
Absolutely.
Even if you've chosen to go a completely different path, you'll somehow go back to where you need to go.
Yep.
You're just going on a side quest.
Yeah, like everyone says, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Yes, that is a cliche saying, but it is so true. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Yeah, and to everyone out there, enjoy your journey.
Yeah, believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
And be nice to your guides and your spouse and your partner.
And don't lock them away.
Well, caveat with that.
Bye.
Bye.